to another episode of the Vet Hustle. I got a cool guest on today, Richard Walsh. And without further ado, how you doing today, Richard? You like to be called Richard or
Lucas,
Rich?
man. Richard's good. Yeah, it's kind of sticking with that. But yeah, thanks for having me on, man. Looking forward to the conversation.
No doubt. I love talking to people. And like I was telling you just before, this podcast is kind of geared to military vets. And so my first question is, have you served in the military?
Yes, I was in the Marine Corps back in. It's been a little while now. Back in the early '80s, I went in. So yeah, I got a few years under my belt.
Yeah, I heard that. So, what made you want to be a Marine?
The funny part of the story is I tried to enlist in the Corps when I was 13
Wow.
because I was like ready to go, and I was a pretty big kid. I was like 6 foot 180 or something. And so I just anything to be out of the house. So I went. I wanted to join the Corps. Yeah, the recruiter was cool. After a couple of questions, he looked at me and said, "How old are you?" I go, "I'm 13, but I'm ready to go."
Yeah, let's go
He goes,
now.
"Okay." Gave me a couple stickers. He said, "Here's some sticker. You come back as soon as you graduate high school. We'll get you in." And that's what I did. So at 17, I ended up going in. Had to convince my mother. My older brother was in the Army, and my younger brother was still in school. And she said, "Any branch but the Marine Corps." I said, "Well, I can't do that because I got to be the best. So I gotta go in the Marine Corps." So I had two recruiters come over and they sat on each side of her on the couch and browbeat her for like 3 hours. Okay, they're the greatest salesmen in the world, right? And finally, she signed, crying and everything else, and the rest is history. I left a couple weeks later. I was in the Corps, so yeah, it was a good start.
That was a dream. Where you from?
Originally from the Chicagoland area. I'm in Wisconsin now.
Wisconsin. Is that like your last start from military, or you just happen to end up there?
Oh no, I moved around. I came out of the Corps. I was in Arizona, and then started working there and stuff. Did that for a few years, and then moved back to Chicago to launch a business that I had started in Arizona. So I moved back to Chicago for that. Then spent the next 20 plus years there, and then 08, 09, lost everything, including the business, my home, everything. Had to start over. Moved to Wisconsin, relocated, began again, and last 16 years I've been here.
You must love it. I'm in Cleveland, Tennessee. I'm right outside of Chattanooga, and I'm originally from Maryland. I grew up in outside of Baltimore, Maryland. So,
Nice.
I miss it sometimes, but I love being here in Cleveland. This is my home now. And matter of fact,
Tennessee's nice.
I just had a dream. I was in my old neighborhood. I was like, man, I gotta go visit home. Um, I love it here though. This is my favorite place. This is where I thrive, and so I'm here for the long haul.
Yeah, Tennessee's really growing. I got friends moving there and stuff too. A lot of people, I had a lot of Chicago police friends. Okay,
Mhm.
and they retire. They're in Tennessee, anywhere but Chicago.
Yeah.
20, 30 years being a Chicago cop, they just want to get out of Dodge. So
Well,
they head down to Tennessee.
I know a guy that's retired DEA, and he's down here, and he's a cool guy. Uh, and he's from Chicago in that area. Did a lot of work in that area in Chicago, but now he's retired. Him and his wife are retired here in Tennessee, and it's cool to get to know them and hang out with them. He's a pretty cool guy. So, um, and then but there's a lot of people. I'm a cigar smoker, so I get to meet a lot of different people at the cigar lounge. So I get to talk to and be around a lot of different people. So I meet a lot of people from Chicago that's down here or visiting people, friends and family down here. So it's a lot of Chicago people that come down here.
Yeah, there is. And it's not a long drive either. So it's what, like 5 hours or something. So it's not too bad. From this area. I'm right on the state line of Wisconsin and Illinois, so I'm kind of, I'm right there. But yeah, it's been, I enjoy Wisconsin better than Illinois. So I'm going to stay here.
So I'm gonna just ask you a couple questions about military. I mean, your Marine life, and then I'm gonna transition, talk about the transition from military to your civilian life. So it's funny because I've been doing this, and I've been watching a lot of especially at my cigar lounge. I watch a lot of YouTube channels, so I started watching like some of the boot camp, the military boot camp life, and I know it's probably a little watered down because they're on camera now. They can't do everything they want to. But talk to me about your experience of boot camp, like going to boot camp. Were you scared a little bit?
Yes. Yeah, here's something kind of cool because I can give you back then and I can give you now because my son is now in the Marine Corps.
Okay.
So he's been in about a year and a half. But so I kind of got, obviously I didn't experience it now, but he did, and I got the full scoop. So there's quite a contrast. Yeah, back in my day. And then one thing, Lucas, when you get, I'm going to air quote my age. Okay. You start to become an old Marine, when you used to be young and, you'd meet some guy who was like, well, when I was in, it was like guys from Vietnam era and stuff like that. And like, ooh, man, those are real Marines. Those are the real Marines, like everyone. And it's funny because I was at a World War II event, this reenactment, and a guy says to me, he starts telling me, well, where were you? And I tell him, 83. He's like, oh, yeah, real Marine Corps. I'm like, yeah, it's funny, buddy, man. That's what we said about the guys before us. I think that's every generation. Okay, a Marine's a Marine. I'll tell you that. I mean, whatever, it might be different here and there, but in general, man, a Marine's a Marine. So
yes,
that's cool. But yeah, it was just basic training was just that. It's kind of an indoctrination, if you will. You get in, and I went in, and I was real good at memorizing stuff. So I memorized the essential subjects test book, right? So all the EST stuff. So I had it all memorized, and it's a thick book. So that first admin week, you're checking and everything else. And I'm just standing there and you're waiting in line to do stuff. And everyone's supposed to be reading their EST book, and learning their general orders and all that stuff. So the DI comes to me, why aren't you reading your stuff? So the private knows, he knows what it is. You and he starts asking me these questions. I just start banging everything out. What's your fifth general order? This, and I'm giving it to him. And he goes, well, dang, you know what you're going to do? You're going to be the prac private. And I'm like, what's that? And he goes, you're the practical knowledge private. You're going to teach all these dummies everything you know. Okay. Anytime we stop, every single time we stop movement, you're going to get out and you're going to start calling stuff out and you're going to teach them. That is going to be your entire job the whole 12 weeks you're here. I'm like, okay, I was hoping to be like the guide or a squad leader. Really hoping to do it. And sure enough, that's what I did. I taught these guys, every time we stop for chow, I get out, start calling stuff out. So, in retrospect, you look at it and go, yeah, I wasn't a squad leader. I wasn't the guide. But I can tell you what, all 54 of those other guys, they all remember who I am today. Because, man, I'm before we had, we have the phase test every and then we had 3 phases and you take the test. And I got them in the head in the middle of the night, back by the shower, just flashcards all night, just bringing guys. Not supposed to do that, but I'm like, we scored real high. We did really well. It was cool. So that was my thing. Okay. So got through. I love the physical aspect. So I killed. I had no problem. It's as unusual, I know, but to me, it was like a great time. I really enjoyed it. I laughed a lot. I smiled a lot. I got thrashed for doing both of those things all the time, right? So I was always on my face doing push-ups or, Benson thrusts or whatever at the time. And it was I just enjoyed it, man. Just the discipline and the structure and everything else and just getting pushed. It was great. I really, really enjoyed it. So, got through that. It's all good. Got out and it was cool. So now let me just flip to today. Okay. And my son's experience. So he tells me, he graduated, whatever, a year and a half ago. So we all go out to graduation, me and my family. I have 6 kids. Okay. My wife and I had another 5. So we all went out for his graduation and we do the whole pomp and circumstance. All that stuff's really cool. And then we're talking about all this stuff, and they started with 55 guys. We had 55 guys in my platoon, right? That was kind of an average size. They do vary a little bit, and he goes, well, he had 35 graduate. I'm like, why is there only 35? He goes, 20 guys dropped. I go, what? How do you drop? How do you drop? Yeah. Basic. And he goes, the second day of the second week, that's when you get your real drill instructors, right? The second week. The first one's the admin guys. Now you get the real DIs. He goes, the guys started trying to kill themselves and doing all kinds of stuff. 20 dudes, out. Now, I'm not saying they got out of the Marine Corps, but they left that platoon, because there's a saying in the Marine Corps, the fastest way out of boot camp is to graduate. Okay. So if you want to get out. Okay. So I'm like, holy cow. He goes, yeah, Dad, I don't think it's the Marine Corps. Remember, these guys are kind of soft. And I'm like, well, it's whatever. It's basic. And now we had one guy who tried to get out and his mother had a senator call to try to get him out. Okay, imagine
Wow.
the crap he took. Now we talked him into staying
Mm-hmm.
as recruits, right? So we talked him into staying, so we don't lose anybody. So it was very interesting. And then as he progressed, he goes to SOI, right? So he got School of Infantry,
Mm-hmm.
more guys dropping out. Didn't want to hump the hill, didn't want to do this. Really another 20, 30 guys, whatever it was, dropped out. Then he went to MSG school for Marine Security Guard, which was they guard the embassies and all that kind of stuff around the world. Really, it's the third hardest school in the Corps. And same thing, guys, 60 some guys got dropped, from that. So it was really interesting how someone's due to the difficulty or they can't perform the job or whatever. But a lot of these guys it was different. You know what I mean? We had a little different mentality, I think, if you go back 40 some years, right? I mean, it's like, it just was a different place. They had a different mindset on stuff. They have different focuses today, different things. Not saying they're right or wrong, bad or good, but there is a difference in people, I think, a little bit now, just seeing that. But to my son's credit and to all those who stayed in and worked and got through it, you want those guys dropping out.
Yeah.
Listen, if they can't handle that,
Mm-hmm.
you can't handle humping a hill,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to combat with you. Okay, just not happening. All right, you got to have my back.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll have yours. You got to have mine. So it's, to me, I was like, okay, so that's the way it is. All right, okay. I started training poolies. Guys who were getting ready to go in
Mm-hmm.
as my son was training. My son and I were doing 3 a days for 7 months straight, getting ready to go. Okay, so like we're into it, right? He wants to do MARSOC and all that cool stuff, but it's like I'm watching these kids. They can't do push-ups. They can't do squats. They can't do one pull-up. They can't.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing. I mean, the standards now, they've had to change the standards to go in because everyone's just fat bodies. You know what I mean? They can't even do the minimums. So now they have to have a certain. So they'll take 6, 8 months just before they can go to basic. So there's a difference there than there was when we went in.
Yeah, I knew a kid here in Cleveland, Tennessee. It's probably the only person I knew that like wanted to go to the Marines like you did. He trained and he was always running. He was always staying active. But he was the only person I knew like outside of just like going to the military on the whim. Just like I'm just going to the military. But he actually put in the work and trained and everything. So that's kind of cool. I never actually looked at it like that. I know I have my siblings. I have 2 brothers that's were in the Navy. My youngest brother's in the Navy now, and then I'm the oldest. I'm 40, and my brother's 38 now. He was in the Navy. His wife is an officer in the Navy now. So all I just know is Navy people. It's funny. I'm in a wheelchair, but if I was in a wheelchair, I would have, loved to join the military. I think that structure, like, you give me things that I have to think about and I just have to do. Like, I'm cool with that. If I got to think about it, sometimes it's too much. I don't want to think about it. Just tell me what I got to do. I'll do them, and that's just me. But it's funny that my 2 brothers that went in that probably, they just went in because they felt like they had to. And it would have been my choice to go. It's cool, but I was proud of them. And my youngest brother, I'm proud of him.
Yeah, my older was Army. My younger brother was Air Force.
Okay.
So I was Marine Corps. So we had those 3. My younger brother is still in the Air Guard. So he was Air Force, that's an electrician. He works on refuelers and all this stuff now. I mean, all these years later. And I'm like, you're still doing that? So he goes, yeah. I go, oh man, that's impressive. That's great. So yeah, it's really what's unique about that was when you're going in, like if you have purpose, if you're going in because you want a job, okay, well, that's what you're going to get.
Yeah.
You're not going to train. You're not going to care about that. But like my son is very, and me, I was very focused on the future, meaning I have something to achieve here.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So he's doing it. Well, you want to get to MARSOC. That isn't just, you don't just sign up and go.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's tier 1 operator. There's a whole process to that. Right. So he's in these difficult areas, always training, still training hard, doing this stuff, staying sharp. And like I told him, be around the best.
Mm-hmm.
You don't hang out with any slackers. No bust outs, man. You got to be guys who want what you want. Okay. Because it's easy to get pulled down. The negativity can be really bad in the military.
Mm-hmm.
There's guys who are just mopes,
Mm-hmm.
and they can really pull you down. You've got to make a conscious effort not to be around those people. Where do you want to go? Oh, look, this guy in MSG was in MARSOC. talk to him, get to know him,
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of stuff, and get that insight, get that training, start to learn what they're doing and what's he really to expect. Because a lot of guys have these things in their head, just like in the Navy, everyone's going in on a SEAL contract. Everybody's going to be a Navy SEAL, okay, and pretty much none of them make it. Okay, they don't get past the first indoctrination month, So, but it's a great recruiting tool for the Navy. It's probably the best tool they got. But it's a whole different animal. You have to go in so focused on that and preparing. My son himself, we prepared him for the recon qualifications, right? Not boot camp. Boot camp, my idea for why doing 3 a days, boot camp was going to be recovery. You're going to actually be resting. You've trained so hard, you don't train that hard in boot camp, right? In basic. So I said, we're training for the recon qual. So we're in the pool, right? 500-meter swims in the camis. We're doing underwater stuff. We're doing the whole thing, right? 45 minutes treading water, because the pool is what knocks most guys out.
Yeah.
It's just super difficult, right? So we focus on that, because if we can do all that, then boot camp's a piece of cake. And he flew through that. So what, he used 100% and all that stuff. But again, it's really attitude when you go in there, Lucas. And that's what really gets you through. If you, like I said, the last time I'll say it, but you get around the wrong guys in any situation, whether it's your regular job, civilian job, or in the military, they are going to drag you down. You're not going to succeed. You're not going to get promoted. You're going to have really negative attitudes. Okay, it's very, very different. So it's critical, and this is throughout your entire life. You have to keep that same mindset. Who's around you?
I think now the transition to civilian life, I'm going to say I like the fact you say surround yourself with positive people that are doing things. I think in my life I had to do that, where I just made a conscious decision that I'm going to get around people that doing better, people that I kind of admire to be like. Still be myself, but like just they have goals and things like that, and so I'm on a transition right now. I have a small business that I'm working on right now, just because I feel like it's important for me to own something. 10 years ago, I probably wouldn't even thought about doing that. I'm getting around people that I admire, and seeing them make me want to do something good for myself.
That's awesome. Because that's what it's about. Even coming out. So I came out of the Marine Corps, and I got to get a job. I'm in Tucson, Arizona. My first job is swinging a pickaxe, digging trench for cable. $5 an hour.
Okay.
100 degrees, just swinging that pick, man, just digging trenches. That's what I was doing. I'm like, don't know where I'm going to go with this. Okay, but I'm making money. Okay, even that, it doesn't sound like much, but it's what I was making. I worked at a bar at night, working the door. Of course, put those skills to use, and did that and started working that. Then, the story was a guy came up and offered me a side gig. Said, "Hey, man, I got some crushed granite I need moved from the street to the backyard. Would you be willing to do that?" And I said, "Oh, heck yeah, man. I dig all day." So I went, he had like 35 tons on the street. And I got a wheelbarrow and a shovel, spent my last, I think, $85 before payday. Went and got a wheelbarrow and a shovel, showed up, and 10 hours later, I had shoveled all that stuff, brought it to the backyard. Reddit did the whole deal. And Lucas, here's the best part. He came out and he put $1,000 in my hand.
Oh, wow.
For doing the work. Now I'm looking at that going, dang, I did this yesterday for $40. Okay. Yeah. I know my future.
Yeah.
I knew my future. That guy set the path for me.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll do this every day for $1,000 a day. I will shove 35 tons of rock every single day. I don't care. That's some serious coin back then, right? So that started my landscape business, which then turned into a custom water feature business. So ponds, waterfalls, streams, added steel sculpture to that. Became an internationally recognized steel sculptor. I'm doing world-class exhibits. And I, again, left Arizona, moved to Chicago, grew this whole thing. It was going great for about 20 years. And then all of a sudden, 0809 hits. November 5th, 2008, day after the election, my phone started ringing. I lost $500,000 on that day. And it just kept going, right? No one was spending money. Nobody. Everything was collapsing, and no one definitely needed to buy a water feature or a sculpture. Okay. So that was like the end of it all. Right. So now I'm losing my business and losing my home. I got 6 little kids, 4 years and younger. Right. I got my wife. I'm like, what's next? I don't know. Like, I don't know what I was going to do, but I knew this was not going to make it.
Yeah.
So I ended up just shutting down, kind of had an epiphany one morning, Lucas, and I woke up and I'm thinking about my 6 little kids. And, they didn't care what kind of truck I drove or how many I had. They didn't care what kind of house we were in. They didn't really care what I did. They didn't know. They're 4 years and younger. All they knew is they wanted me to be around. Like one day, my 4-year-old's chasing my truck down the driveway as I'm leaving. He's crying. And I'm looking at him in the rearview mirror, but man, I got to go save this business. I got to do this. My business was who I was, Lucas. It became, and this is similar like when you're in the military too, whether you're a Marine, Army, whatever, you become that. That's who you are, right? And that you almost have to become that to do the job, right? But you get out and you're no longer that. And that's where a lot of guys struggle, is that identity crisis.
Yeah.
Who am I now? Especially after 20 years of war, and you're in the mix, right? You're in all this stuff you've done, that you've given so much, and now you're just some guy on the street. Everyone's thanking you for your service, but that don't do anything for your identity. You know what I mean? It actually might even, reinforce it. So I'm laying there in bed thinking, you know what? If I stay in this course where business is first, it's everything, right? I'm the one got to be in the magazines. I'm on TV. I'm doing all this stuff, right? I got all these creds. And I'm like, I'm going to ruin my children's future. They're going to grow up and they're going to have broken marriages, failed relationships, right? They're going to do, and I'm like, because more is caught than taught with kids. I'm like, they're only going to do what they see me do. They're not going to do what I tell them.
Mm-hmm.
That's how kids are, man. They don't, you can tell them a lot of good things, and you should, but if you're not walking that talk, they're only going to do what you walk, right? I'm like, I got out of bed. I went in the office. I said, we're done today. I'm shutting it down. No, I went to my construction area with my guys. Been working with me over 10 years. Same guys. Had our last cup of coffee. And I said, dude, guys, we can't do this anymore, man. I'm done. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm finished. And it wrapped everything up, and moving, having to do the whole thing, right? Starting over and try to begin that whole new phase. What's the next season? 20 years of doing that. In the Marine Corps, then get out, did the business for 20 years. And now I'm like, now what?
Yeah.
So that was difficult, right? So because everyone's got their transition issues, just like you, Lucas, going into a business now, you're going to start your own thing. Okay, that's a whole new journey you're going on.
Mm-hmm.
So buckle up, my friend. It's going to be challenging. It ain't easy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting there now. Like, I'm still at the beginning phase, so I have like a little checklist, and I get my little dopamine hits when I check something off. But I feel like I was telling somebody, I was like, I don't feel the stress in, I think, the obvious ways that I think I would, but like it comes out in certain different ways. I'm like, oh, I'm not used to this feeling. This is not a cool feeling. But ultimately, like with that, I'd rather fail and do it than never do it at all. So then that's where I'm at. Like I won't be able to respect or live with myself if I don't try to start something. And
yeah, you have to remember, Lucas, like failure's okay.
mm-hmm.
It's quitting that is disgraceful.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you don't quit. You fail, you're going to make lots of mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I don't work a lot with startups, people doing business for that reason. You don't have enough scars. You got to make some bad decisions. You got to lose some money. Okay, you got to climb over some hurdles.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you can't appreciate what I can do for you.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like anything. You're not going to go, if you've never swung a baseball bat and some major league ball player is going to come in like, hey, I want to hire him, he's not going to work with you. You know what I mean? He's way up there, right? He's not going to go root, he's not going to go fundamental stuff.
Yeah.
They could, but you know what I'm saying? They're at a different level.
Yeah.
So same thing though, you got to go and you got to make the mistakes, and it's okay. Just push through,
mm-hmm.
get it done. Hey, seek good advice, find a mentor. A mentor is someone, you can meet with once a month, have lunch twice a month, who gives you insight, who's been there where you want to be. This is important for everybody. If you're coming out of the military or you're just looking to start that business, leaving corporate or something like that, find someone who's at where you want to be. And if they'll be kind enough, and they usually will be, to give you some advice, and again, don't abuse them. Don't be calling them every day, asking them the next question, but like buy them lunch,
mm-hmm.
sit down, have an hour, and take notes.
Mm-hmm.
What should I do with this? What should I do with that? And that's a great place to start, because it shortens the learning curve. We call it time compression, like when you hire a business coach, right? I can put 10 years into one.
Mm-hmm.
So I can save you 10 years of bad mistakes, costly decisions, right? Stuff like that in one, because you get to the point where the sooner you can hire a coach, the better.
Yeah.
And whatever you're doing, they're all out there, right? So people need to understand that, because you want to shorten that failure time. Again, you're going to fail at stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Straight up going to fail. Like, and if you think you're not, well, you call me up with your first failure like next week and tell me, oh, look, I did. Okay. Because it's going to happen.
Yes,
right. I've run multiple businesses, started, failed, whatever. I've failed huge. I failed little. I wrote a best-selling book about it, so I got a book of failures. Okay. But it's a bestseller. Okay. So you have to understand that's part of the drill. And when you're creating even a new, I was going to say identity, but really a new place to evolve in your work, because I really don't think you should ever let your identity become what you do.
Mm-hmm.
Right. If you do that's a really bad trail, because that's what makes you make bad decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because you're protecting your identity. Think about that. Right. So I'm going to make decisions so I can maintain my identity, which is my business. That's not actually who you are.
Yeah.
Right. I make decisions due to my character and what I believe. My identity is in Christ. Okay. From my standpoint, that's my identity. The one who will never leave me or forsake me. Right. So I understand that. I had to share that with my son, who's now in the Marine Corps. He was a really good runner. And we're running cross country, track. We're training to go to the Junior Olympics. We get there, and he lost his big race one day, and he's just, you can't console him. He's just angry for days in his room, right? Won't talk to anyone. So his mother and I sat with him, and I asked him, what is going on? He's like, listen, I'm the best runner. Everyone depends on me, blah, 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 right? Kept going about everyone. I'm supposed to win. I lost this race by half a second or whatever it was, I said, listen, man, I can give you a stack of books from the floor to the ceiling on great athletes. It was over in a snap.
Yep.
Snap a knee, snap a neck, whatever, right? It's over.
Mm-hmm.
If they're done, never play again. Okay. I said, it can't be who you are. It's not who you are. And if you do that, you're going to have a miserable life.
Mm-hmm.
Then I share with him, your identity's in Christ, and we did the whole thing. But the cool thing, Lucas, a couple of years later, he's running track, right? He's in high school now, junior or senior year. A friend who was a real good wrestler started running, and he was battling the same thing, who he was. And my son gave him that same speech. I'm like, dang, that's cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He really helped that kid out. The kid's like, oh, and because once they realize that's not who you are, it's just what you do.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you're gifted at it, use the gift as long as it lasts.
Yeah.
Right? That's great. But it can go away in a heartbeat, man. It really can. We know from a military standpoint, a lot of things can end.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of things can change in one explosion, one hit, one shot, right? A lot of different things. You get pretty beat up. It can be really, really traumatic. So it's important that people understand that identity issue.
Yeah, I want to keep going, but I want to talk about that part, that military part. In one instance, things can end really bad. Like, how was your transition mentally, getting out of the Marines into civilian life? Not getting a job, not, just being a Marine for howsoever long, and not being, you're still a Marine, but not being in the military, being retired.
Yeah, it's, what's interesting, and I think you'll get this from most Marines who are out. It's way better when you're out. The Marine Corps life is a difficult life.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Like, and when you get out, it's like, hey, we're all brothers. Hey, I'm Marine Corps. I meet old Marines, new Marines. Yeah, I go to this thing and I do this. And hey, my son's in now. Now he's in suffering. Cool. So it's like, isn't it great? He's like, yeah, Dad, it's real great. Yeah, okay. But he gets it, right? He's in it. So I think like anything, we always, we go in the past and we look at stuff and we kind of remember all the good stuff and forget the bad stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's a lot of hardships in the military. You're put up with a lot of stuff. Yeah, you're being told what to do. But there is a rank structure. You understand where you're at. That's the good news. That structure, that rank structure, that chain of command is critical. Like, I've taken that and used it in my business, right? It's the same principle. But when you're getting out, it's like, well, I was a Marine. What am I going to do now? Well, like I did, I'm swinging a peg axe, but I'll go get a doorman's job. So in case I do get to beat someone up, that'll be cool. Okay. But I started boxing.
Okay.
So I'm like, I need a box. I need some action. So I had a friend, team a boxer. I became a champion boxer. Right. Did that for a bunch of years. I became a black belt. I started really using that. I had to have a way to release my physical like that energy I had to give out. I just loved it, right? So I had to find a way to train on that. But for me, the business, working for myself, I think the Marine Corps reinforced that, Lucas, because I'm like, yeah, I don't take direction well.
Yeah.
I really don't. Like, I learned that in the Marine Corps. Like, yeah, I'm not going to be a lifer here, because that's a little too much being told what to do. When I can't leave base because I don't have a belt on. Okay, and I'm just in my civilian clothes. I'm like, yeah, that's taking a little too far. So I'm going to start a business. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do what I want when I want.
Yes, sir.
Right. So I kind of got into that. So that helped me, like, kind of put that aside. Like, so there's this conscious effort not to do some things that were like the Marine Corps, but there's other things I took and used for good.
Yes, sir.
Like, well, how do I use that in here? You're able to pull on these experiences, which are always there. And we all got the stories. We all got all this stuff, and it's really good. And I wanted to use some of it because I am kind of an all or nothing guy.
Yeah.
So if I'm in it, like when I left water feature and sculptor, when I stopped doing that, I haven't done it again in 16 years. I haven't built a water feature or done a sculpture.
Wow.
Never did another one. Okay. Moved on to something completely different. I'm that way. I literally burned all my uniforms because the identity thing. I burned them all. I got video like, never again. I'm never being owned by my business. Right. It's going to serve me. I'm not going to serve it.
Yes.
It's not going to be who I am, and stuff. So that was that transition for me. You had to focus on it and make it happen, because you still, that brotherhood, that connection, in the military itself is really, really powerful. You know what I mean? You don't just find that out in the civilian world. Okay. First guys that tell you to F off, you'll go kill them. Okay. But you can't, right? Like, can you imagine? Like, you don't do that, right? I mean, that's why a lot of guys who maybe spent 20 years in, get out, all of a sudden they're in charge of 50 guys. And the first guy they tell to do something, gives them the finger. They about have a coronary. Okay. They're just not used to that kind of reaction. You know what I mean? So it's a different thing. And you try to instill it in your business. It's like herding cats. Okay. It's really good. People, if they haven't been through it, they're not going to be able to do it. Okay. And that's the reality. So you got to find that blend. What is the blend of that? How can I instill that philosophy, if you will, without kind of the hardcore edge?
Yeah.
If you can bring those and blend those two, you can really create a business. People will thrive. You'll build the right culture, the same brotherhood thing, loyalty, the same vision. Everyone's working towards the same thing. See, in the military, everyone's working towards the same outcome, right? If you don't do that in your business, okay, you're going to have problems. Everyone needs to know what's the mission, but what's the true vision? Where's everyone really going with this? So again, you make that kind of that hybrid of the two, and you're able to really thrive in your business.
I like that a lot. That makes perfect sense too. So, you are a coach, right? I mean, a coach for business,
yes.
And it's called Sharpen the Spear. I heard you talking about that, but I just want to kind of get that out there and give it a name. And so I'm not going to ask you how do you enjoy it, because I think it's not no dumb question, but like.
Well, I'll tell you, Lucas, because it's a good question to ask, because a lot of guys do business. It depends where you're at. I get joy from my coaching. Okay. So I'm not happy. I get joy because what I do for businesses, okay, I release them from that owner prison. My book's called Escape the Owner Prison. Guys start a business, they end up doing everything in it, and they never can get released from that. They can't delegate, they can't automate, they can't eliminate, right? So when I show them how to do that, and they may be doing it 10 years already, and I turn around, all of a sudden they can be with their family. They can go on vacation. They can have the profit they've always wanted. They can have the freedom. They can make the impact. Okay. When that happens, okay, dude, I like save families.
Yeah.
Think about it. So many businesses destroy families because it's all or nothing. And then, they neglect their family, the thing they got in business to provide for. Right. So for me, I love it because I understand the outcomes and what I'm building for.
So sometimes is it just that they don't know how to? Is it a mixture of they don't know how to, or they can't let go? They have to be in charge of like everything. Everything has to go through them. Like it just.
It can be that, but here's the problem. Okay. So we have a skill, a trade, a craft, whatever, and a great idea, and we run with it. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
we're the number one salesman. We're the inventor. We do it all. We take it to market. We get everything going. Right,
Mm-hmm.
we're selling it. I don't care if you're knocking on doors or whatever you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. First 2 years, that's what it's going to take. There's no secret sauce to not working hard the first 2 years and wearing 9 hats.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is, Lucas, next thing you know, 10 years has gone by and you've repeated the first 2 5 times. Okay.
Okay.
You're on a hamster wheel. You won't let go or you don't know how. Again, when I started, dude, what did I do? I shoveled rock.
Yeah.
Okay. It doesn't take a lot I didn't need a high IQ. Okay. To move this pile from here to there and get $1,000. Okay. But to me, that was business.
Yeah.
That's all I knew. I'll go make things and people will pay me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's easy. Okay, well, that's not easy. Making money in business is the number one easiest thing you can do. It's the easiest thing you can do in business is make money.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people will think that's not true, but I guarantee you, it's everything else that's difficult.
Yeah. Yeah.
Paying your tax, having this line, the marketing, all the other things to business is what's hard. And if you neglect that, or you're trying to do it all yourself, you're not an expert at all these areas. So you might do it, but it's going to be so low end. Again, you're just going to churn on the wheel. You're not going to grow because you can't, because you're not able to duplicate yourself, right? You feel like if you don't open the door, nothing happens. And that's usually the case. So that's when we come in and say, let me show you how to do it the right way. And it's not their fault. Again, we understand, right?
Yeah. So let me ask you this. I think marketing is a big deal, and sometimes you still hear clients not wanting to get into marketing and spend money on marketing. How important is marketing to you, and what advice do you give people?
So marketing is it's the most ambiguous term there is. Marketing. Okay, well there's a great old saying about like marketing and advertising. It's some guy, I forgot who said it, but he's like, I know half my marketing doesn't work. I just don't know which half. Okay. So there's like, remember what you do, like you're going to be losing. Not everything's going to work,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now today, and everyone does a different kind of niche,
Mm-hmm.
So what you have to understand is like, well, what am I actually trying to do? Am I ready for marketing? Or literally am I talking to people myself, selling a product or service? What does marketing look like? Too many people dump huge amounts of money thinking that's going to propel them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Another thing you do, and there was a rare, a marketer. She runs a great marketing company. It's a very rare statement I heard any marketer ever say. She goes, if you come to me and you have your last 10,000, last 100,000, last $1,000, and you want to put it in marketing to save your business, she goes, I'm going to tell you to go away. You can't. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to take your money. It's not going to work. Mm-hmm. She said, what you need to do? You need to go sell yourself. Knock on doors and talk to people, because that's not what marketing is. Mm-hmm. Marketing is a long game. Okay. It's little bits here and there. It's testing, it's split testing, it's on and off and on and off. What works, what doesn't. It takes a lot of attention to do it right. A lot of commitment and time. And that's where people get messed up, Lucas, because they want it tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Hey, I put some Facebook ads out there. Oh, I did Instagram. I'm doing that. It's all cumulative and long term. So if you jump into it too deep, you're just going to lose money. You're going to lose all your money.
Yeah.
And you're not going to have a business. So really, really just tread lightly. Be really delicate. Again, look for the right people who have done marketing in your exact product or service, not just someone who can market anything. Okay.
Well, yeah, you're talking about that. My thing is, I live in a smaller neighborhood, and I'm out there. I roll past people. How you doing today? Little shops that I go to. There's a shop around the corner from where I get my cigars at. I go in there and I talk to them and just have cool conversations. How you doing today? So when I went over last week, I told them that I was starting a business and everything. They were so excited for me because I did so much for their business too, just by telling people, hey, try that place over there. This place, you won't be disappointed. She's like, there are people that come here all the time. They say they know you. And they said that you told them to come in. And that's where we build relationships. Sometimes, like, you got to build a relationship over the business sometimes. The money's going to be there. Like you said, that's the easiest thing. But the relationships is what you need to be working on.
That is, you are 100% on point,
Mm-hmm.
Lucas. Everything is relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Everything. Every sales relationship. Only 3% of all buyers will buy right now.
Mm-hmm.
97% will not buy from you right now.
Mm-hmm.
Don't care what you have, right? So what does that mean? Relationship time.
Mm-hmm.
How do you keep them in the fold? How do you keep them engaged? Right? How do you do all that? How do you become that referral guy like you've done to the cigar shop? How do you get people to be your referral person? Because that's how you're going to sell in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And that costs you nothing
Yep.
except time and building relationships,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you got a great product or service, you build these relationships, man, you hook them up, whatever. I always call it, don't cheat your salesman. You know, if someone refers me, I'm going to take care of them one way or another, not necessarily pay them, but you know what I mean? So it's really, really important to understand the relational aspect. That's all of business.
Mm-hmm.
All of business is relational. And that's another mindset you have to go in with. Who do I know? Who do I want to know?
Mm-hmm.
I do not want to be the smartest guy in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Find, if you are, which you could be, go find another room, as they say. You need to get in that new input, reaching new people who also know more people, right? It's networks, it's relationships. That's where it's at. In your situation, Lucas, you got this idea and you're just starting to grow this thing. It's all about connecting. Because people are going to drop a truth bomb on you. They're going to give you a little nugget. You're like, oh man, I got to do that. And you add that, but then they'll see your enthusiasm. I call it ignorance on fire. Okay. Because you don't know everything, but dude, you're going.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what it's about. Like and I love it. Okay. That's the kind of stuff it takes. And they'll feed off that enthusiasm and just love you and they'll refer you. Right. Because most of us who start a business, we're pretty excited.
Yeah.
Okay, if you're not excited to start a business, I'm going to have to question your whole reason for doing this. Are you just bored or what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, come on, man, you got to be excited about this stuff. So, but yeah, that relationship stuff is so key.
Yeah, I've learned that. I've learned that early at an early age too. Though, you know, building a relationship is more important. They get you what they say. You can get more with honey. Forget the saying. You attract more flies with honey than
vinegar.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, so that's my biggest thing. But I think I've learned that because of my wheelchair. And you talk about identity and things like that. And I'm winding down, and I want to keep you. And I appreciate you for taking time out of your day to chat with me today. But there was a lot of things I had to learn the hard way about being in the wheelchair. I just turned 40 in April, so like I feel like the same but new person. Those experiences that I've
Lucas, you gotta I look at someone like you. You're in a wheelchair for how long? Dude, make that work for you. You make it work for all these guys you're referring to the smoke shop because you're hanging out. You got your own chair in the place. You know what I mean? Literally, right? You can roll in, man, have a cigar, you know, and next time you have a nice Partagas for me. But
I got you.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, you have to work that to your advantage. You know who Nick Vujicic is?
No, I don't. But that name
born with no arms and no legs.
I do know him. Yeah.
Oh, guy, dude, world class speaker, flies over the place. Where's your excuse? Here's a dude literally has like a little finger on his shoulder. Yeah. He could dial a cell phone, do this stuff. He's jumped out of airplanes. He can do all that, right? So like, you just make it work for you. You know, turn that thing to an advantage that crushes your competition.
Yeah.
Like, because if you can do what I do, and I got everything, who's better? Who's better?
Yeah.
Right? Okay. And you can, we could spend an hour talking about what you could do. You know what I'm saying? Like, you take that and use that to your advantage. Okay. I had a friend years and years ago, beautiful girl, wanted to go to law school, did all that. I mean, she's stunning, right? I'm like, use that.
Yeah.
In court of law, you are going to kill it. Okay. I mean, God gave you that advantage.
Yeah.
Okay. And she was super smart, did really well, super, just awesome. And I'm like, you got to use what you're given. Right. But you can use it. You can't think it's a negative. You just turn all your negatives into positives, man. Like, how do I do that? How do I make this thing work for me? Because you're going to be memorable.
Yeah.
You're way more memorable than I am. if we have this same conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Right, Lucas? Like, think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm going to remember, yeah, I talked to this guy, Jim. No, I talked to this guy, Lucas, and he's, the guy in the wheelchair. He's out there, man. He was crushing them pull downs. He's doing all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The guy's getting after it. Like, who's not going to remember you?
Yeah.
So you have a distinct advantage over me.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Make sense?
Yeah.
So
right.
business is just like that.
Mm-hmm.
Use it to grow your business. Really, I mean, I'm not, I just think it's cool. If you can focus on it, man, and use it, because that's where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
But make it work.
Yeah.
Use it to your advantage.
I like that a lot, and I'm definitely going to take that advice, use it as my advantage. So, yeah, for sure. So, like I said, I appreciate you for being on the show today. If you have is there any one last thing that you want to say that you didn't get to say before, or a piece of advice, or?
Yeah, let me tell you something. And you'll like this. I have 3 words. Okay, and it's just do hard things.
Mm-hmm.
You got to do hard things in business, in the gym. I love to work out, right? I love to suffer and push myself and hit the bag and do all my stuff really hard. But I can't use that as doing a hard thing, because I like it too much. Okay. Now, working on a computer, okay, that's a hard thing.
Yeah.
Don't care for that too much, right? Mm-hmm. But I had to force myself to do that, right? It's like when people train for a marathon. Okay, great. You trained, you ran the marathon, you finished. Well, what's next? You don't get a year and a half off. Like, what's the next hard thing? Because that challenging, that pushing yourself to do things that are a little uncomfortable is what's going to get you where you want to go.
Yeah. Because
when other hard things come into your life, you can conquer them. Right? You got to have that. Again, that in boxing, I train guys. I train my son in boxing, everything else too. And I'm like, listen, it's okay if you get beat by a better boxer. All right. That's the game, right? But you know what's not okay? Running out of gas, not being fit. You control your fitness level. And if you run out of gas, that's disgraceful. That's all on you. Okay, can't blame me. Threw a wicked left hook, whatever. I'm like, that there's nothing to do with it. Okay, it's about your conditioning, right? The things you have control over, be amazing at that, right? But do those hard things to make the other things become easier. That's probably my best parting words.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that. I got one last question. You did a little boxing. Are you watching boxing? Do you watch boxing?
A little bit, not as much as I used to. Okay. I wasted a lot of time with that Tyson, whoever Jake Goof, whoever the Goof was. That was disgraceful.
Yeah, it was.
Okay, that whole thing was just what a sham. But yeah, I don't keep super tight on I'm running businesses and stuff like that. So if I'm not doing it, man, I tend to lose interest. I'm not a sports guy, which is odd, but I don't dedicate the time for it. It takes too much time.
I feel that. Well, I'm not really like like I said, I spend a lot of time at the cigar lounge, so I don't really watch a lot of boxing or UFC. Definitely watch a lot of UFC. I watch boxing before I watch UFC by myself. We got the fight Canelo in September, Canelo and Crawford.
Right.
I'm actually looking forward to that fight. I don't care if it was supposed to be, 10, 20 years ago or whatever like that, like early on. But I'm looking forward to that fight. I think they're both good fighters. I think they're going to give us a good fight. But
I agree. It should be. It'll be definitely better than the Tyson thing. Sure.
Yes, sir.
But yeah, it's a sweet science, man. I love it. I'll coach people still, and I still hit the bag multiple times a day. I rock hard. I did this morning. I mean, I love staying dangerous. That's a big part of what I do. It's not, I'm a dangerous gentleman. That's what I am. I just want to say, I maintain my skills. I train hard. I do that. And it's a good feeling. And you have a different level of confidence, going in every day, especially in business, that's why it's sharpen the spear, right? I got the whole kind of warrior mentality in this. We're honing entrepreneurial warriors on the battlefield of business.
Yes, sir.
That's what we're doing, because it's war every day in business, man. You're always, someone's always coming against you. You're going up against a challenge, something like that. So if you're getting into business, you're in business, you get it, but you need to prepare yourself and be mentally, physically fit, your nutrition, everything else, man, you got to stay energized. You got to really be able to deliver on a daily basis. And it's not easy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's definitely not. But Richard, I definitely appreciate you being on today, man, and hope you have a good one.
Thank you, Lucas. Appreciate being here.